Thank you for your interest in Washington Township Schools. This referendum fact presentation will give you details for the May 5th, 2020 referendum on the ballot for Washington Township Schools. During the past 2 years, Washington Township has been engaged with the community and stakeholders in reviewing the future success of Washington Township schools. It is the vision through this process that all students are equipped academically, socially, and emotionally to maximize their potential within thriving, equitable, and exceptional schools. Washington Township Schools proudly serves over 11,000 students. We are very, very proud of the diversity you see featured here with some of the data about the students that we serve, but it also creates a wide range of needs in each of our schools. The objectives of the May 2020 referendum are to improve student safety and achievement for our schools and students, better pay for teachers and staff, to complete the major reinvestment in our schools so that they are sustainable and not needing major renovations for the next 20 to 30 years, and to protect property values. In order to achieve those objectives, we need to have both an operating referendum and a construction referendum on the May 5th ballot. We will now go into details about what those referendum entail. First, we will share details on the operating referendum. Anytime you see operating referendum, think staff. And this part of the referendum has 3 areas that we will explain. The first area of the operating referendum is a renewal of the current operating referendum, which is an annual amount of $6.5 million. This referendum amount and the renewal of this will support 50 to 60 teachers, 2 to 4 administrators, 15 to 20 classified positions, and it would replace the 2016 operating referendum so there would not be any overlap. If we are unable to renew this, we will have to cut the positions listed that you see on this screen. The second area of the operating referendum is $3.9 million annually to improve compensation for staff. Specifically, we would add $1.5 million to increase teacher pay. Annually, we would also add $1.5 million to increase all classified staff compensation, and classified staff members are instructional assistants, bus drivers, custodial, maintenance, transportation, child nutrition, front office staff, and other support staff positions. And lastly, $900,000 annually targeted to compensation adjustments so that positions remain competitive with other districts surrounding us. The last area for the operating referendum is $5.6 million annually to add additional supports for students to our schools in our classrooms. The list you see here encompasses 91 additional positions that we feel are needed to support our schools and our students. This list was derived from conversations with teaching staff, with administrators, and with parents to serve the needs of our students. The chart on this slide shows a summary of the third area with the additional staff additions that are in the operating referendum. You can see here that the primary staff additions support academic needs in blue, as well as the social, emotional, and safety needs of our students in green. Next, we will transition to giving you a summary of the construction referendum on the May 5th, 2020 ballot for voters. This referendum area has 2 parts. Before we share the two areas of the construction referendum, we wanted to answer a frequently asked question, which is why does Washington Township Schools need another construction referendum now? First, going back to the 2016 construction referendum. That referendum addressed many needs identified in 2015 during our planning, but excluded some areas of our facilities altogether. We have over 2.3 million square footage of facilities that we have to keep updated and maintain. As our older fleet of facilities continue to age, they will face extensive daily use and decrease in efficiency. We also have ADA accessibility challenges, and we are not meeting safety regulations in several facets of our schools. So the 2016 construction project did address many needs, but it was never designed to address all of our facility needs to sustain us from not needing major renovations for a couple decades. Additionally, we need another construction referendum now because we're experiencing an unprecedented increase in the cost of construction, which we will explain. And the 2020 plan addresses major renovation needs for our facilities so that our school facilities will not need major renovations for another 20 to 30 years. This response came from our community input the past 2 years, where the community shared with us they would rather have the district ask for an amount on the next construction referendum that would sustain our facilities from needing another major renovation for decades. Therefore, we have looked at the long-term needs of our school facilities and major renovations that would be needed for 20 to 30 years, and that is what is encompassed in this referendum. And lastly, fund availability. We do not have the opportunity to ask for a referendum in 2021, and if we waited to ask for the construction referendum till 2022, that means property taxes would not be received by the school district until 2023, and that would have significant negative impacts to staff, facilities, which ultimately mean our students. Mentioned on the previous slide were facility conditions that are not being improved with the 2016 referendum. On this slide are a few examples. While some money has been identified from the 2016 construction referendum, most of it is being used for new spaces that are being developed and not replacing existing or outdated furniture. The district has condemned an unsafe sports facilities as well as inaccessible playground equipment. We also have outdated casework, failing and inefficient mechanical systems, as well as deteriorating building conditions. All of these things either limit student opportunities, are safety concerns, and or are increasing our cost for repair, maintenance, and utilities. And none of these areas featured were ever a part of the 2016 construction referendum. This slide describes area number 1 for the construction referendum, which explains some reasoning for the current high cost of construction and examples of its negative impacts on our ability to complete the scopes of work identified in the 2016 referendum. The project value loss due to the construction inflation and the increasing cost of construction across the 2016 projects is an estimated $47 million. This includes inflation, soft cost, and hard cost. As the slide represents inflation that was estimated annually prior to the referendum in 2016 at 2.5%, the construction industry has been seeing 5 to 6% annually, and this is larger than expected. This trend of high construction cost inflation is expected to continue. The construction industry as a whole is thriving, creating competition for skilled workers and materials that drive up the cost of labor and overall construction cost. These factors are the drivers for our project value loss, which we need to recapture in the 2020 referendum. You can see 2 project examples at the bottom of the screen with our Eastwood renovations and Crooked Creek renovations from what the project estimates were back in 2015 to what the actual construction costs are estimated at in 2019. Area number one, which we just explained on the previous slide, was the reasoning behind our need to recapture the loss of value and scope from 2016. Area number two, featured here, identifies those priority scope items that could not rightly have been included in the 2016 referendum, but are now needed to sustain our facilities from needing major renovations for the next 20 to 30 years. To that end, the district has undergone an in-depth evaluation with our professional partners to identify current deficiencies and student program shortfalls not identified in the 2016 referendum for construction that we believe, when fixed, will sustain our facilities for the next 20 to 30 years. Some of the key scope items of work identified to fix the identified deficiencies are highlighted on this slide in a summary include expanded student learning spaces, additional building system replacements, improved access for individuals with disabilities, athletic improvements at our secondary schools, including middle and high school, the construction of a new Northview Middle School at our 91st and College district-owned property, followed by a repurposing of the existing Northview building for a new operations center. These items are more than driving the estimated $285 million needed to take our district into decades to come. So with the cost estimates that we shared in area number one and area number two, what is included in those cost estimates? As mentioned before, the major cost components for our 2020 referendum estimates include hard cost, which are those items such as brick and mortar, studs and steel, roof and walls, equipment, systems, etc. Also soft cost, which include architectural fees, furniture, geotech studies, asbestos abatement, etc. All tied to an increased cost of construction factor based on the Turner Building Cost Index. This slide shows an example of what you will be able to find in our referendum materials for every single school and building site for Washington Township schools. It will outline on the left the 2016 construction referendum scope details, and on the right, the 2020 construction referendum details. This will allow you to see exactly what we are able to cover from 2016 funds and what we are asking to be covered with the 2020 construction referendum funds. Again, this example slide is available for every single school and building in Washington Township schools. This is only an example. Most of our frequently asked questions are around the areas of finance and property tax implications. Therefore, this next section is dedicated to answering some of those frequently asked questions. What has been the loss of funds for Washington Township over the last decade? Well, details on this slide will show you how Washington Township has lost $72 million in funding over the last 10 years. And you will see the three areas where we have lost funding with details on this slide for your review. These are the reasons why school districts must pursue operating referendum in the state of Indiana. How does our state funding compare to less complex or diverse school districts around us? This slide will show you that Washington Township over the last 5 years has received a little over 5% increase in funds, which, as you know, does not even keep up with the annual cost of inflation. If you look to our north, Hamilton Southeastern has received over double that in funding, and Carmel has received an increase of almost triple the Washington Township amount in funding. And those are two low complexity districts. For details on how, you can read the bullet points that go into further detail at the bottom of the slide. But due to this, we have to seek additional support for our schools. Another frequently asked question is, what funding options do districts have for major renovation and construction projects? The bottom line is that state funds do not provide any dollars for school districts to conduct major renovations or construction projects. Therefore, the only source of funding through the way the state of Indiana has it set up is for school districts to ask their communities for construction referendum. Why are school referenda needed now when they haven't always been? Well, this was a change in the law in 2008, which required schools to seek referendum from their communities. We are certainly not alone, and most school districts surrounding us have already asked their communities for construction and or operating referendum. What will happen to the 2016 operating referendum? Well, if the voters approve the 2020 operating referendum, it will terminate the 2016 operating referendum tax. On December 11th, the school board adopted a resolution that commits to this, to levying only one operating referendum in 2021. If a majority of the voters support the referendum for Washington Township schools on May 5th, 2020, how long will this sustain the supports to Washington Township schools? Well, there is a different answer based on which referendum you're speaking of. First, the goals for the longevity of the operating referendum would be 8 years. When we passed the 2016 operating referendum, the law only allowed those to go for 7 years. The law has since changed and now allows 8 years. Therefore, the operating referendum, if passed by the community, would extend 2020 through 2028. That would mean the district would need to begin planning around the termination of that operating referendum in 2026-27 school year. As mentioned several times throughout this presentation, the goals for the construction referendum are to sustain Washington Township facilities from needing major renovations for the next 20 to 30 years. This chart shows the comparison of property tax rates with Marion County and surrounding counties. You can see by the arrow closest to the left that Washington Township's current tax rate is 0.83 cents. If the community supports the 2020 May 5th referendum, it will move us, still in the bottom third, but it will move us to $1.29. And you can see the comparison of where we will be in Marion County and surrounding. All school districts with a star above their data denotes that they approved a 2019 referendum, which those property tax implications have not yet shown up, so they will be moving further to the left. To give an example of the property tax impact to Washington Township homeowners, we are going to use the example of the median home value in Washington Township, which is currently $180,500. That median home value is up from 2016 when it was $173,000. So for the median home impact in Washington Township, the impact for the operating referendum would be $9.92 per month, and the impact of the construction referendum would be $22.49 per month, for a combined monthly impact of $32.41 to the median home. We encourage all property tax payers in Washington Township to find out the potential impact of the referendum for their specific home value. This chart will give additional home values, but we encourage everyone to go to the property tax calculator link, which is at the bottom of this screen, to put in specific details for your home so that you can find out the exact property tax impact for both referendum. There will be 2 questions on the May 5th ballot, and these are drafts of those questions. We have highlighted the key information. For the operating referendum, you can see that the question says that the tax rate will not exceed 25 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation. For the construction referendum, you can see that the ballot question will state that it will not cost more than $285 million, and that the estimate increase to the property tax rate for debt service is 31 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. We realize this is a lot of information, so we will take this opportunity to summarize the referenda that will be on the May 5th, 2020 ballot. There will be two referendum on the May 5th, 2020 ballot. The operating referendum, which will not exceed 25 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, and a construction referendum that will not exceed 31 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. Both referendum are needed to support the future success of Washington Township schools. A summary of the areas each referendum will cover. The operating referendum will support the renewal of the current referendum, which means we can maintain our current staff levels. It will also increase pay for staff, and it will add 91 additional staff positions to support student emotional, social, behavioral, and academic needs. The summary of the construction referendum areas: one is to support the 2016 projects due to the unprecedented increase in construction cost. Two, additional construction scope areas that were never included in the 2016 projects, which include expanded renovations at all schools, student program expansion, athletic facility improvements and renovations, relieve overcrowding on our secondary sites, and relocate and construct a new Northview Middle School to allow Northview to be repurposed for an operations service center. Our school board has been actively engaged in this process. In order for Washington Township schools to continue to be a destination district for attracting high-quality staff as well as families and residents to our community, the school board believes that the presented recommendations for the 2020 referendum are necessary in order to continue to protect property values in the district, as well as provide our students as well as families continued and expanded opportunities to achieve excellence while improving student achievement and safety. If you have specific questions, please email them to me, Dr. Woodson, as superintendent. My information and contact is on this screen. As a reminder, the objectives of the May 5th, 2020 referendum are to improve student safety and achievement, better pay for teachers and staff, complete the investment in our major renovations of school and athletic facilities, and protect property values. The remaining slides are used as resources and additional information. They will not have presentation audio that accompanies them, but we wanted to provide them for stakeholders who may be interested in a specific school or site and additional details.